Okay, so next one, this is, I'll leave the controversial one till last, to the end, because everything will make sense in order. But again, it's not as much controversial, but it's, I don't know. Anyway, so let's go for it. Now this is all about how we affect each other, and positively and negatively. But you need to be aware of how it works, because it's very much mental health. We're all very connected. So, understanding is a process of redeciding what is or is not true, and this happens throughout life as you gain more information. Much of this information can have with it negative feelings, and I hope that the following exercise you're about to do will release a lot of that. Unfortunately, the emotional pain you have experienced has changed how you view people. And this view then becomes a real-world source of new emotional pain. Whatever you like in life is from people. People are music, people are art, people made everything around you. Our world is a result of the insides of their mind. As you start to deal with all the pain, and what remains is good stuff, though there are things you can do to get a kickstart. If you decide that people are great, you have a huge amount of power inside yourself, and you can get that by having a thorough knowledge of goodness. Oh yeah, so for the world model, you want to be reading, you want to be watching documentaries, you want to be talking with people, you want to have friends that are Labour, friends that are Conservative, friends from all different countries and nationalities and beliefs, and starting to build up this worldview, and especially focused on good things, and chicken soup for the soul and stuff like that. The more you think about others, the more motivation you have. Other than these exercises, what you can do is expand your view. Yeah. So to have gratitude is an ability to hold on to a felt positive emotion of appreciation. And I believe it is difficult for people who are holding on to a lot of pain to feel deeply appreciative, as there's been a lot of time where they've not enjoyed being alive. So emotionally, they already have a default setting there, and people tend to not be aware of this pain or joy because of the numbness. But the awareness exercises later on for anybody will help you deal with this numbness. Appreciation is also a psychological ability to observe and focus on the present moment and explore a thought process. If one has a dark model of the world or themselves or others, then anything that happens that is good is reduced as it is experienced through that frame. A numb frame could be like a dark frame. Finally, gratitude is sensory based, so to appreciate a glass of wine, one can hold, showed that in the pen example, one can look at the colour of the wine. For other people, there's not, they always go, so there's not much time to appreciate, so on and so forth. People who have a different sensory process, so you've got to learn to appreciate all your senses. That becomes easier when you understand awareness, which we'll get to. So repairing, let's do that one first. Okay, so gratitude. So to use this, the appreciative thought process properly, you've got to get as much detail as you can and think about the whole process. So you can think about different things that you're grateful for and also investigate why you're grateful for that. It puts the whole story together and helps you to remember times in greater detail when you did feel more deeply. You've got to be able to go inside and see the whole thing in a connection of images, perhaps 5 to 15 before you start to feel. So you can feel grateful for that, but you really, you go deeper. The question of why is important. And this is what is going to evoke a deeper investigation inside yourself. It's going to make more connections and build this memory bigger in your mind. And that's what we need to do with beneficial visualization. The more links, the better. Why is the question that finds feelings. And feelings are what you've got to start reliving your life through. So things like who helped you along the way? Who paid your wages? Who taught you something? So you have lists and lists of this. Think about individuals that you know personally. This is the strongest one you can do. And then why is it important to you? How are you different now as a result? What did that help you out then? What was you going through at that time? You know, it's not just a suffering now, it's a suffering back then too. And you know, and you forget about all the things you've overcome, all the pains in the past. You know, you start to put the story together. Who are you glad you met? Why are you glad you met them? You know? And then like products, like what are you grateful for? Like if you can think of an inventor and the history and the effort that went into a product that you enjoy, and the people and the efforts behind it, it's like it's not just, you know, it's paper, it's everything that went into your, it's a whole thought process. They say kids today aren't grateful, and like everything in the world's been made. If you know it was different, and we gave them books and look, we had none of this, and they knew all the labouring that went into everything, they're going to have a more appreciative view. And that's what we can do. We become more appreciative when we study history, when we understand people and what we've done as a society. It makes you more grateful to be like, you all can walk along and you see buildings and stuff, and you're okay, wow, and start to become fascinated. Once you've dealt with all this stuff, you get more into feeling. So aside from enthusiasm, I need to go into pause at the right parts. So you can do that, you can pause that if you want. Okay, and part of this gratitude as well is obligation. It's like being obligated to do something. So, you know, enthusiasm, I want to do something. Obligation, I should do something. And that gets you motivated. You know, when you think back to previous generations, they've done so much for us. Compelling moments. Yeah. You know, once you, this might, you know, if you don't get it, it might be because you're not really feeling the link between your thoughts as much, or you've got so much in your mind, it's hard for you to go deep on something. You might think about something quickly, and then it's gone. But if you can really get immersed in something, then like the body, once you're in your body, once you've dealt with all this stuff, you can do it. Trust me, like I couldn't do this before. Nothing affected me. I was so numb. I had so much going on. But yeah, you know, this is the full map. So some of this you'll do straight away, some of this you can come back to later. Right, so this one, repairing your emotional identity. Okay, so let's imagine these are the blocks. Okay, this is how you used to feel. This is how you feel now. Yeah, then you had, let's say someone has managed to take 6 blocks away from the total of how you feel. You were at 16, and now in a particular environment, you only have 10 blocks. Okay? If you stay in this environment for too long without gaining these blocks back, your sense of self changes, and you may stay at 10, 11 or 12 blocks. You know, as the neuroplasticity, our brain starts to change after a while. So in the beginning, you know, you would have gone to that place, you'll be at 10, and then when you get home and you're with your partner again, you're at 16. Or you're on your own, you feel 16, you feel fine. So if that keeps happening, we change. Have you ever noticed when some people make comments, it seems to take something away from you and add something to them? They seem energized. They are taking your blocks. The reason they feel a need to do that is because they have a lack of blocks to begin with. Now, you might be someone right now who has a capacity of 16 blocks, but you only really feel like you have 5 or 10 left. Sometimes you might feel at 14, sometimes you might feel at 16, but it only lasts for a few seconds or minutes in fleeting moments. Sometimes you'll feel at 5 or 7, and it'll be kind of average. Though, have you noticed around some people or in some environments, you'll feel at 16. You'll feel higher, perhaps at 13, 14, for a longer period of time. That's because good people have special kind of blocks which resonate with yours. That way, the way they're using their blocks gives to others rather than takes. If you are in an environment where a positive person repeatedly influences you, the same law applies, and your average amount of blocks will increase over time back to where you used to be, or further on still, even once you've left the environment with a positive person. Some people don't look at what blocks you have or the fact you've got some missing. They see the capacity that you used to have, or they see the potential capacity of how you could feel. You don't need other people to do this for you. You can do this yourself. You've just got to remember when you gave your blocks away, when this happened. You deal with all your beliefs. The more blocks you get back, the more energy you have. And yeah. So I think we've gone into, that was meant to be for self model. Okay, so we'll talk about the self first, we'll talk about others. Yes, so this might happen to you as a child. This might have happened to you in your own household. Okay, for whatever reason, you know, you've got to get to know yourself, you've got to be the best you can be, do the best you can. So you want to know all your positive qualities, you want to know what your bad qualities are as well. You want to know what qualities you've lost. So, and have an action plan for dealing with them. You know, you've got to be fully self-aware when you get to understanding yourself and different experiences. I'll get to that in a moment. So, you know, if there are people who have taken something away from you, you've got to think about why did you take their opinion so seriously? Was there anything valid to their comments or actions? You know, there's times in your life when you might not have been that great, and you know, there might have been something valid to it. If there is, you process it, you change, you learn about who you are, and you're continuously ever growing. Though sometimes there's never something valid to what people do and what people say, and it still affects you. If there was or wasn't, it's like, what can you learn about that person? What can you learn about the experience? You know, you want to know what you lost at that time. So how can what you lost become insignificant in the grand scheme of your whole life? You know? Yeah, so just continue being the best you can be. And, you know, as long as you're working hard every day, making all the right choices, there's no reason why. This is just for the person that, has lost confidence for one reason or another. If you feel you lack qualities too, some people are hard on themselves, because you can look at people that you do like and see a quality. Oh, okay, I wish I was more disciplined. Oh, I really like how that person works hard. It's because, we see some in other people. They're actually our own qualities. And we do this as children, we model our parents. We always aspire to be like people that are older than us. And that's what resonates with you, what you like in other people, is generally how you should grow and what you should focus on improving, because that's relevant for you. So you have a plan for it. You know, you want to be at the point where you fully accept yourself. No more, okay, I wish I was like that. I wish. People say don't compare yourself to others, but you should. You should be the best you can be. And so you do fully accept yourself. So there's none of this low self-esteem stuff. And there is a point when you do. You know, and think about the qualities you lost too. That's an important one. Like, what did you lose? How have you changed? Maybe you used to be confident, but you're not confident anymore. Now you want to get that back. Okay, so failures, if you had many failures or something like that, you messed up a lot of times, don't worry about it. Like, you're a monkey, you know, we all make mistakes. We make the best decisions we generally can if you've messed up. With your achievements as well, you've got to remember that, what you've done well. You've got to look at why you failed, and understand that logically. Things can go wrong. You know, self-criticism, there's some reasons for it. You know, you've got to get all the self-criticism done. Like, okay, why am I saying this? It's like, could you be working harder? Stuff like that. You should use a positive intention behind everything that goes on in our minds. And you want to be... yeah, okay, time's fine. you want to be just doing the best you can. Achievements as well. You need to be aware of all your achievements, because sometimes we forget how well we've done. So you write a personal history. It's like, I've accomplished this, I've accomplished that, I've accomplished this. Have it all. And you have to be aware of the obstacles. You have to be aware of the punches you took. You got to be aware of the effort that you put in, because when you're heading in a direction, there's so many things that just jump out the blue that you have to deal with, and things take longer than you think they would, and you have to be aware of all the efforts, all the kindnesses, all the different things. So when you're measuring your self-image, and you should measure yourself as who you are, and it's solid, it's concrete, it's not subject to, which I'll get to in a moment, to how other people may view you or make assumptions about you, because we are always affecting each other. We're affecting each other with words, we're affecting each other with projections, and there'll be a point, like if your self-esteem's low, people are not going to be responding to you the way they used to, and you'll feel that. And it's not so much there's anything wrong with you, it's because you can see they don't see you as you used to be in their face. But you got to get comfortable with that. When your confidence is low, you got to realise, you've got to be fully accepted, like, my confidence is low, I messed up, or whatever. It's like, because life, it really does go like this, and you can't predict everything, and you're learning. And this is on my Facebook, so there's going to be people with my age, like, your 20s and that, you're learning a lot. And so yeah, you got to be aware. So write down all the things that even you didn't achieve, and it's like, but I put in effort, and you start to build back the past and the time and all the effort you put. And then it's like you stand on this. It's like, hey, right, and that helps with your motivation, because you're still going forwards. And it's like, look, and then you rebuild your identity. It's like, I'm a hard worker, and it's truth. Then it's not flexible, because unfortunately, because of hallucinations, which we're going to get to, the first thing someone sees you as is a stranger, and strangers are bad. If you're in a situation where, say you're a waiter or something, it's not ultimately what you want to be doing, but people will be talking to you like a waiter, and we all know how waiters get talked to sometimes, and that's affecting your own self-image. So there's methods for dealing with this, but it's having that, whatever your circumstances, because if you're gonna, you're trying to do well, you're going to get knocked back time and time and time again, and you can't have failures and things shaping how you feel about yourself. And people do, and there's so many people with low self-esteem because of not where they want to be yet. You've got to go through a learning process. So yeah, be aware of your contributes. So then when you review all this stuff, you've got to realise, okay, right, what did I learn? And it's funny how we learn so much of the things we really needed. We don't really get what we want, but we got a lot of what we needed from knowledge. So it'll be, if you do get to where you want to be, or maybe you're there now, and you spent all this time feeling bad about, you only did this job, you only did that job, or whatever, then you're not valuing what you did do and what you learned during that time. Okay, so another one is like wasted time, people with low self-esteem. You got to think about everything you've got from your life so far. This is the younger generation who, they're not on the property ladder yet or whatever, or you got to think about how things have shaped you. So I partied a lot when I was younger, and there's a time when I was looking back, it's like, I was doing so well, and then I got distracted, and the way I was feeling about it was negative, and it was like, but then that shaped me in who I am, like the people I met. I got to really see how life could be, and I was having so much fun and such a good time, and I was so much lovely people that made a rock. Yeah, so even though, I had limiting beliefs in where I was going for certain things I didn't achieve or whatever, but there was things I got from it. So I had that, and it shaped me as a person. So even though it's probably, they probably made not bad decisions, but yeah, I had to then go around, all the way around as a result. But You've got to really grab everything, all your experience, and bring it through to now. And you don't be harsh on yourself, be smart with yourself, be strict for yourself, you don't be harsh yourself, because at the times we always think we're making the right decisions. Yeah. Okay, you need to expand your achievements as well. So this is a good example of, say there's somewhere you want to go. Say I put here as a mum, she wants to be a vet, but she doesn't think she can. She says, I just know how to be a mum. But if we look at mum as the achievement, we can expand it. So what does this mean? Back to meaning. It means she's caring. It means she's got to be good in a crisis. So you start to then get more meaning from these things you've achieved and these things you've done and stuff like that. So you're building up your self-esteem. Okay. Right, so, and then again, right, so back to criticism. There might be things that you did or didn't do, how can you make up for it? It's what you want to know. Like if you wasted time, how can you make up for it? When will you do this? Where will you do this? What will you learn about this? There's a reason. 0 point walking around feeling bad about yourself after you've done the lessons and you haven't repeated mistakes. But it doesn't benefit anyone else if you're walking around with low confidence. Life is about the future, so you want to feel good so you can continue to be the best influence on others that you can. I hope you've already realised this rather than beating yourself up unnecessarily. And there's a peace from knowing you can't change the past, of course, and you let go of, and you try and do the best you can. However, I do believe in karma, and I do believe there's a way to feel right about things rather than simply just thinking positive and thinking, I can't change the past. It's empowerment. It's like, right, you've got to be, you got to use your experience. If there's particular relationships as well, you've got to level all your relationships. You don't leave anything, and look at your objectives. Like for me, it was because I learned about hypnotherapy. That was one for me. I always needed to get back to it, and get back to making something like this, and it was always there, and it was always important to kind of compile it, to put something like this together. And it was like, and to get back into this work, I think I decided it was a long time ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was like, right, I get back into this work. And because I was doing all right, like I was doing solar panels, and I was climbing on roofs and measuring them out, I was putting in a good day's work. It wasn't important to me. It was good, it was for the environment, but it wasn't right for me. And it was like, right, when I was thinking, this is the same questions I asked myself. It's like, right, so why do I feel bad about this? And it was like, well, because it's just personal to me. I feel right if I, share this knowledge in some way. If I work with people again, I'm using all that stuff that I learn. And it's a way of feeling right. And it's completely personal. So there's going to be things to you that don't necessarily make sense, but it's a way to feel completely right. Because we are, our generation, we're so lucky to have been born with the internet and to live in this day and age. So it's it only makes sense to you. And what's relevant for you. Like what I'm doing is not going to be relevant to someone else because they didn't do an NLP course at 18. They didn't get that same opportunity. So don't worry about it. It's not what someone else is telling you. It's what comes from within you is right to do. Okay, and for other stuff, if other people have wronged you, this is what you can do. So some things, you're getting stressed. It's a good one for stress, for frustrations, for anger, it's for physical pain. You need to know what you can learn from these experiences. This is what I did. I was working, and I can't recommend this to do because it's probably illegal, but this is what I did. And you can write this on paper, I'm sure, just as effectively, or shred it afterwards. But anyway, I was having this situation and I was just getting really angry. Like, I had a slow laptop and I just could not believe how angry I was getting. And I went up I just went outside and I just started writing, and all these other things were just, I was angry about this, I was angry about that, I was angry about this, I was angry about that. And I wrote it all down. I put it in a metal bin and then I burnt it. And then, whew, and they have all kinds of ceremonies like this that involves fire. Anyway, so then what I started to do, this is how this got invented. It was like, so what can I learn from these experiences? How can I, well, another question for you is like, how can you prevent it happening again? Now, what can you learn? And like, what tends to happen is you get to the point where you realise that people only do the best they can, and we're all very similar, and people don't have any choice who they're influenced by. People, it's really more innocent than it is. Now, like some things, so you can just, you don't, if you're doing this process, you don't focus on one event too much, think about it too much. You kind of keep a distance in your mind as an observer. You stay relaxed and you just write down, so what can I learn from this? I think I'm missing a page. I'm just going to pause it. Found it. Okay, so you'll know when you are done, when you come to the conclusion that people are generally a product of their environment, or the influences they had, or they act out of fear, or sometimes just simply aren't good people and there's nothing you can do to change it, though there are very few and far between. You're looking for a less sinister feeling of people and the view that people just really haven't got their lives together. So remember to breathe throughout, relax as much as possible, and you just write until there's no anger left. You're looking to be relaxed about it. And this one might be for you the next time you get angry or frustrated, as it will just be easier to access those emotions then, because they're all linked. And yeah. And what was interesting for me was when I was getting upset about what others did and stuff like that, I was like, okay, well, there was times when I wasn't so good as well. It was like a complete mirror, which was really beautiful, as it shows how similar we all are. So yeah, there we go, that's that. Next. Okay, so previous hurt from others can give you a tainted lens. So we're going to get into paranoia now. If anyone has that, but everyone has some form of paranoia, as I'll explain now. Right, so the next part of your view of people, what's this? So interest, like perception, so it's understanding, yeah, that's what forgiveness is, it's understanding and learning. So some people, okay, so by holding on to negative feelings or illogical viewpoints, intentionally or unconsciously, is going to affect you emotionally and psychologically. This is for individual events and people and the way you view the human race as a whole. I'll give you some examples. If you choose not to view people well, you will constantly be on guard and forever have the voice of skepticism and cynicism in your mind, which does not feel good. Well, I'm not saying be blind and trust everyone, I'm saying it doesn't always have to be the first thought you have in your mind. I do understand where it comes from. You cannot let certain people affect how you view others, but you can't let certain people who have been in your life affect how you view others today. And the reason for your cynicism or skepticism is because at some point you were hurt and you remembered that emotionally. Now, as an example, like everyone kind of hallucinates. If you buy something and you say to yourself, I'm going to check my change, is that because you say in your voice, he might have intentionally short-changed me, or because people make mistakes? So it can be very, very subtle. So whenever you hear or say something about people, you've got to be aware of it. So what are you listening to? So it's what are you expecting? Is it useful? How true is it? Is it likely to happen? Why am I expecting this? What could this be related to? What could I be expecting instead? So like I said earlier, people project views onto you. I'll get to that later. People project their views onto you. We also do that to others. So it's important you're not doing that, especially in arguments as well. You want to be looking for the wise man, expecting the best out of people, and you bring that out of them. Now you can still have Eckhart Tolle puts it best, and he says what happens in our society is through time we have carried the history of all of our sufferings. So there's a race between us. So he said that, and I said, we have to think about all of that, and like all the collective personal hurts. It's someone just passing it on to someone else a lot of the time. Okay, so you'll find during these exercises, if you do them properly and uncover the reasons, people generally do things like suffering and fear. Okay, so when you make assumptions, fast assumptions, and decide to dislike someone or a type of person, it's only to irritate yourself. So an exercise, what you can do is delay how long until you make a judgment on someone. Judges' characters can be right, though it's important to remember that people are different on different days, not to put them in too strong of a box. People are generally a combination of everything. And when you understand people, and you might not like certain types of people, but that's different to disliking. It's a different feeling. So hallucinations. It's the deleting mechanisms, like once, twice, forever. Hallucinations, to a varying degree, we hear things that aren't said, we see things that aren't there. Also from the time that were said, things that were said, and it's the meaning we take from things that were said that can be completely wrong. Considering alone, without even necessarily believing something, if the thought is there, it's a problem, it affects how you feel, and you don't want to be constantly checking in and questioning. You can do this by proving to yourself how illogical paranoid thoughts are, and when you believe in goodness, and that's your primary, like people are good, that's your primary center. With paranoia, people tend to assume the worst meaning first and then get themselves to a more realistic meaning after. So ideally you want to get the realistic meaning first, and then so that's, when it's fear, it's like paranoid straight away. You think bad things. And then you go to here, where really you want to go from realistic first. And to kind of show you how this works, you can even think of something positive. You can trick your brain and think, right, best case scenario, and then bring it back to realistic. So it shows how the mind can. But you want to be getting here. And in the beginning, if you've got a lot of stored pain, like this will be quite strong. Paranoid one, but then you're dealing with all of it, so eventually it'll become less and less intense, and it'll only affect you a little bit, and it'll only affect you a tiny bit, and then you'll stop thinking about it. It's useful to be aware of one's breathing, to relax the physical body as soon as you feel the effect. If paranoia is a big thing for you, you can make a list of different times that you were paranoid and your perceptions were wrong. So in the future, for a fact, that your eyes and your hearing frequently misled you. The stronger you believe and remember that you have been wrong before, then it will act as a rock the next time if you have a paranoid episode. So you can leave the heartbeat paranoid racing world, because it's a world that people go into and rejoin the real world. Okay, so what you want to know is, so the people in your life, name, why, that is a good person. Any positive moments. And what you want to do is go from low, medium, high, until you like them and trust them more and more. Just going to start up here. And this happens accidentally anyway, so if this is the situation you're in, actively make an effort and try and get through this as quickly as you can. Start building connections, and then you'll relax. It's nice to do anyway, but it's good. It's also useful to tell people in your environment that paranoia is something you suffer with. Communication beats hallucination. So you can get reality checks from people. You can say to someone, hey, look, this is what's happening in my mind. The solution here is we are breaking you out of the past world where people were sinister and hostile and you did have to be on guard. And we're going to need to get your mind and body to learn that this is not the case everywhere. So you don't need to release tons and tons of adrenaline. You may find that people you live with or work with will actually be compassionate to you, as they may have had some experience of mental health themselves, or it will be nowhere near a bigger deal to them as you're imagining. If they are the opposite of compassionate, then guess what? You're in the wrong place, and maybe you weren't wrong after all. If you've got mental health problems, there's a chance it may have been caused by bad people, so don't continue to be around them. This next exercise will relieve anxiety and paranoia, and also improve any social environments that you're in and your overall model of people. That's the task I just did. So yeah, cool. Okay, so what we're going to do right, so you need to protect your mind, you need to protect how you feel, and there are some people who don't care how they make other people feel. And sometimes you work with these people, some people, not everyone, but some people, they're just some rotten people. But you need to know how to deal with them, because you can't, especially if you've got mental health problems, you're sensitive anyway, so for them digging and things like that, it's going to have dramatic effects. And you can't do that because that's going to affect how the rest of your life and the rest of your day. And I'm not sure about the science of it, but I believe it's a transfer of energy. It could not be that; it could be something different. But what the science is and what is the truth of it is not the important thing. The important thing is how it's making you feel, and it's out of line, and it shouldn't be that way anyway. And so some people aren't affected by this, maybe everyone is, but I'm pretty sure everyone gets affected by rudeness and things like that. So this is what I learned. Now imagine someone says something to you in a degrading way, of a comment or a question, and you start to feel the emotion of being brought down. The automatic response is to logically and reply to them by talking about yourself as the subject of their comment. Instead, what you need to do is put the focus of attention back onto them, like sending the energy ball back, by highlighting what they have said is not acceptable. So instead, you can ask them a question such as, do you hear yourself speak? What is your intention in asking that question? Because some people do it just for a laugh, or to bring you down, or for whatever reason. And it's unnecessary. And what you're going to do instead is remain neutral, because the people are hallucinating all the time. They think all different things, and they do it. That's their humour. That's literally how they feel good. So what you're going to do instead is remain neutral. You need to keep your emotions balanced and unchanged and unaffected by this person. You never attack someone or attack back, because again, that's bringing out the negative in you. It's never to defend, because if you're defending, then you're still going into their negative world. If someone makes fun of your shoes or something, but in like a derogatory way, not in a jokey way or a banter way, but in a, just the tone of the voice. Do you know what I mean? So defend yourself really works, as it's also using the logical part of the mind, and we're not dealing with the logical part of the mind here. It's not the logic of what people say. It's because that's fine. It's the emotion. I believe it's offloading. So if you notice, if you've ever accepted these comments from people, like, you're so surprised because it's completely uncalled for, and you feel, you might walk away from it, might feel angry or like just like not nice, and they feel empowered. People with authority, sometimes they like to do this. Okay, so speaking logically as well, it doesn't always work. So sometimes they completely ignore what you say and will keep talking about what they're thinking about, because that's what these kind of people are. They're so stuck in their heads that they're not aware of anything else. Or they just interrupt you while you're talking anyway. And if you do that and you've not got past the first thing, it's like they're throwing a tennis ball, and where you was about to catch the tennis ball's hit you, and before you can deal with that one, they're throwing another tennis ball at you. So you straight away, you've got to like and you've got to make them feel what they're saying. You've got to be firm. You don't be aggressive, but you be firm. If they do listen and you're logically right, you're logically right, but you don't confront, like, with your voice, with your where you stand, with looking as well, then it's like you're taking all that on, and you need to let them know they're not superior to you, because that's what people believe. People genuinely believe this, and that's why it feels that way. That's why it makes you feel less. So the sense of superiority is where the comments come from, and their intention is to bring you down. And sometimes it's automatic, because they've been doing it for so long, and they feel an elevated sense of power, as this is one of the only ways they know how to feel good. So how many types of comedy are there? You've got observational, you've got one-liners, you've got a story format. There's so many creative ways we can be with humour. Using our minds. But then we've got humour that's in bad taste. Why would you have humour in bad taste that puts people down and stuff, when you can do stuff in a fun way or a witty way? So do you really think these people are superior? You should be at the point where you believe fully that no one is superior to you. If you don't, then you do need to work on that. You need to be at the point where you're like, we're all even. I work, they work, I do my best. I'm sure that everyone else does their best. I do the right things. So it's like there shouldn't be anything else. So you don't even for a second entertain the idea that someone is above you, because that's what they try and do. So they try and give an impression they're strong by putting people down, but really they are weak. And most of all, they envy and fear people that are truly fearless and confident and strong. So demonstrate that down by, you've got to shut them down immediately. It's like, shh, like Jack in the Box. It may be difficult to do at first, but confrontation, but it only takes a couple of times. And you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to learn this lesson, because people will you're going to continue to meet these people. Eventually you do become fearless, and it is easy to deal with these people. They only seem confident because they are used to being rude. It's not real confidence. It will last them temporarily, and then they will be on the search to find more feelings outside of themselves. So, next, you need to prevent yourself gaining any more limiting beliefs as well. So you choose your outer conversations wisely. Never leave anything with bad feelings unconsidered. Make a short note of it, and then when you have time, you analyse it vigorously, what was said, until you let it go and you know what is true. You are carrying around beliefs about yourself and about the world that may not even be true, and therefore you're carrying around unnecessary feelings. These feelings can be the source of future thoughts and therefore decisions and behaviours. So make sure you have this in combination, so you can understand. So is there anything useful to consider? Anything I can learn? How experienced is this person or knowledgeable in this particular subject? Because people give you doubt all the time about stuff, and they could be very smart people, but not about the thing that you're thinking about. And as soon as you're considering what people are saying, you consider, you listen, but it's a way, it's like energy, and if the doubt's there, you feel the doubt, you can't do that. You've got to go through like counter evidence, supporting evidence to what they say, think about it, sit down and consider it, deal with it, having new feelings, new actions. Not then the next day you woke up and you didn't deal with it. Now you think about this thing you want to do, you've now got a doubt there as well, and energy's got to flow. It's the way we think about the world. It's important how we feel that we do not allow invalid doubt, worry, or discouragement to interfere with our motivation and confidence. Interferes with our motivation and confidence. Thoughts must be processed in full rather than left to roam around and work havoc. The stronger the emotion that someone speaks to you with, or the more, if you know someone's really worried and they're just a warrior and it takes you back, and because it's intense. Especially if the subject is about you, your work, or the world in general. So you have to be able to maintain and be grounded and stuff like that, which I want to get to shortly. Especially as people can be both incredibly convincing and incorrect at the same time. And unfortunately, a large amount of people have no awareness of their own feelings or how they're making other people feel, or the ideas they're leaving in others. I believe emotions are passed on through voice tone, which are then received by the listener. They accept them. These are attached by pictures and words, which rest in the mind. If I came in on camera, said, you have got to try this beetroot stuff. It is amazing. Yeah? The next time you see beetroot, you might smile a little bit. I think, man, this beetroot stuff's good. But you'll still remember it. Now, if I made a big deal, you might not remember it now because there wasn't much of an effort, but if I made like a big song and dance, you would. So they were constantly linking thoughts all the time. There's a probability the next time, so that it's dangerous, so yeah, anything will stop you moving forward, limiting beliefs. You can see where it kind of comes from now. Right, done. Okay. You want to be aware of how things sound in your mind and what images you're painting, so you can kind of understand where things come from. And just different beliefs, for example. So I always associated a fun or not serious feeling to going to the bakery. Advertisements. So the habit was hard to break. When I thought about it, the advertisements always contain something like, go on, it's fine, and a cheeky voice tone. Now I have a serious feeling instead when it comes to this kind of food. If you want a serious feeling, just have a look at what a stomach looks like. So organisation is useful in all endeavours. The idea is to keep track of like how things sound in your mind, how you're talking to yourself. Intention as well, like, what's the intention? Okay, it's because I want to relax. If you're taking care, if you've got the voice in your mind, if you're worrying about something, like the intention is the same as to take care. Generally, I found people, they will think about taking care or being careful, and then they don't because it's not that loud, and then the worries start coming in their mind. But if they're taken care early and listened, that's where you got to have a clear mind so you can hear things more. Okay, right now I'm going to take care of that. Because I know if I don't take care of it, then I'll worry later. You start to notice your own patterns. Okay, just on boundaries now. Okay, with people. So there might be people in your life who are making things difficult for you. So you want to ask yourself the question, what is it others are doing or not doing that you are putting up with? What is in your life that regularly stresses you as well? It might not be other people, but it might be things that stress you or cause you to worry. You need to get everything down on paper, every single cause of a negative state, until there's no more of these causes. So like a glass, we smash a glass, we glue it back together. We need to let that glass set before we start pouring hot water back into it. So it's like all relationships. So you need to plan it. Like if you struggle with confrontation, how you're going to deal with it in the best manner possible. You need to speak to people, in the right way, and because people are terrible communicators. What you're gonna do if this doesn't work as well. Like you're gonna try this. You don't leave saying, okay, I'm gonna try speaking to this person. Okay, it didn't work. Then it's something else. You still got to deal with the problem. People will accept things too easily, and they go back to being stressed again. Will I give that example? People are always putting things back onto people. So, as an example, I heard about a neighbour. There was one neighbour. There's also parking. So one neighbour was this butch bloke, and he was saying to another neighbour, his next door neighbour was scared of him. So what that neighbour did was he parked in front of the third neighbour's drive, and then the third neighbour said, "What are you doing by my drive? I can't get in now." And then that second person, because they were scared of the other neighbour, even though that was a bully, the second neighbour was then rude to the third neighbour. I said, "Well, I'm not going to do it, sorry," and then walked in. And the third neighbour got angry about it. I was like, "Well, what's going on?" Eventually they got it dealt with, but it was the thinking of the third neighbour at the time. Thought, "Well, I don't know if I can deal with something like that." But and then we can accept things, we can let things go. But then what that would happen was it would cause another frustration next. And when this person was trying to come back and park, so that guy's still in my space, what can I do about it? And I can't remember what happened, if they said something to them again, but it took a long time. It took weeks before eventually that second guy was dealt with, and then he had a word with the third one. So people are always shifting boundaries because of one reason or another. You've got to be able to nip things in the bud straight away and have a way and a method. If it don't deal with it, not accepting it, because you can feel what's right and what's not right. And people act out of fear, things like that second neighbour, because he's scared of the other bloke, when really he needed to bottle up, man up a little bit. And again, it's like there's ways of doing it. You do things in the right way. You never have to get aggressive. You can be firm. You can point people's attention to certain things, but you do have to be firm. If you're aggressive, but it's firm. It's like, look, listen, if you have to. And there's ways of doing it. Then I made like this sheet. This is like conflict resolution. You can define your problem. There's ways. Look, define the problem. It's like, what is the problem? Then you have to explain to people what the current impact is, because they only see the problem. They do not see all the links from the problem. So you need to make people aware of that. You need to get people to listen as well, because sometimes you talk to someone, they hear it, and then their mind shuts down, they're thinking about something else. So you need a way to be able to speak to people to get them to listen. And you go through each individual, and they can see the whole picture. And then people are reasonable. Most people. Who else affected, what else is affected, what effects are taking place, they won't realise. Future consequences of the problem if it's left unresolved. See what you've tried so far and what your own personal limitations are as well. And then you give your suggestions, and then you let them have their suggestions, and you come to some kind of conclusion. Because stress, so many cases, a lot of the time, is unnecessary. It's boundaries, and it's things that can be resolved. And every time you do, if you've got a scale of confrontation, you realise you didn't die, you didn't lose your job, whatever. Okay, so now we are going to go to this idea of suffering. Okay, I'm not here to tell anyone advice on working or anything like that. However, I can share with you my experience. 14 years old, I started working. My mum had an Avon thing, and I used to do the door. I used to go around doing the Avon, and then I worked on the market, and then I worked at Pizza Hut. So working straight through, and then there was a point where I had 2 jobs a day at some point. So I always wanted to do well. I think we all did. My generation, we had MTV, you had like MTV Cribs and stuff, and I was like, oh wow, what's potential. We all got the internet and stuff like that, and it's like, look at all the different places, beaches and things. So I always wanted to do well, and it would be nice to be in the sun. So, but there's a whole thing with it, which is that you've got to suffer, and you just with the pain. I don't know if that's exactly what you have to do, but I can tell you it can send you one step forward and 2 steps back. Now, my experience, I had 2 jobs a day. Like, I was trying to save time everywhere. I stopped pairing my socks. Like, I've not got time for that. Emma would say to me, like, I'm working in the evening as well, and Emma would say, oh, what should we have for dinner? I was like, Emma, I can't talk about what I need for dinner every night, because it will completely interrupt and I have to start thinking about it. Some with 20 minutes. And it's like, okay, what we got? And she's like, I don't fancy that. And I'm like, oh my, like, I've got to continue working. And right, this is when we go on with plans. So, 2 weeks, this is what we're going to eat. We've got everything on there we like. We always eat the same stuff anyway. And we're sorted. Looked at it, I'm going to Google Maps. Okay, there's a train station. It says 8 minutes. I am from Essex. I can do it in 4. And then bang, I'll be rushing. So it's constant, all this. So there's a real, I think there's a culture around it as well. But what happened to me was I had a back injury, and it ended up sending me back further than anything else. I lost 2 years of my life. And I was ignoring the signals, I was ignoring the stress, I was ignoring the pain, but there still seems to be this in the workplace. There's also the attitude of servitude as well. This idea that some people are here to serve other people. We're here to serve each other, but there's this hierarchy thing it's disgusting, really. But that's the attitude, and it is in a lot of workplaces. It's not everywhere, but there is this real, and when it comes to the disregard for people's health and well-being, there's a way of working. Yes, you can work 80 hours a week. Yes, I can work 12 hours a day now and feel fine, because I know about posture, I know about body, and that's what you do need to have these understandings. So I'm just saying about just a couple of questions for you, if this is what you're doing, if you're hating life, because I was thinking of suicide every day at one point. And there's no need. I'm so glad I'm still here, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who do think about this and they feel like it's necessary. But I've seen, so I do believe in spirituality. I've seen benefits when I decided to stop suffering and putting out with it. Everything in my life got better. In terms of in so many ways. So many different ways, and happier. I was looking for that enthusiasm I had when I was younger again. I've got it again. This is worth, you can't buy this. Anyway, so yeah, right. So the question for you, if this is what you're going for, first thing, is it the right thing for you? Is it the right? If it's not, then you're suffering from something that's, you can't suffer go through this burnout thing. You can probably do it once or twice, but to keep doing it again and further, that reconditioning, you can't keep getting up and crashing. And like Emma said this to me as well. I said, Dan, what you're doing is you run and you sprint and you fall over. You sprint and you fall over. You sprint and you fall over. Like, it is a marathon. We're going to have to work for 40 years, another 50 years, however long that's going to be. And it's a long-term thing. Though, as I said, I'm not here to give people advice on working particularly. Some people do say you do have to suffer, and these are some very wealthy people, but there's a difference in my experience, there's a difference in suffering. The way I suffer now, I like to work longer hours, it's like play fighting with a child. It's whereas before it was like getting in the ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was awful, like sitting at a desk, like hating it, but it's all about posture. Please stay and watch the stuff I've got to stay on the body and exercise. Okay, you can surpass your limits and stuff like that, blah blah blah. So again, you've got to be just smart. Is the product or service needed in the area, or are you suffering to push forward something that's not really needed to society, and there'll be no end to it? It'll just be like suffering for no reason. Are the managers leaders, or are they bullies? There's a difference. Do you have staff who don't value their jobs? Many people that work for you that are leaning on you. Again, boundaries. There is a certain amount of work that needs to get done in a day. Do you have the necessary knowledge and skills? If you don't, then you're suffering unnecessarily. Yeah, no positive affirmations will help if you're breaking your back all day. So, yeah, so look, it's like your job, there's a certain amount of suffering to be enjoyed in life. So if we liken it to a cold morning, if you're waking up in a cold morning in the Arctic at the moment, the objective is to be waking up in a cold morning in Spain. Sometimes it might still be difficult, but it's not as cold. And that's the way you do it. So sacrificing mental and physical health can result in one step forward, two steps back, as it leads to emotional behaviour as well, such as overspending. You spend what you earn, or lack of behaviour, which is burnout, not to jeopardise how you feel in the achievement of your goals. So suppressing negative emotion results in the bottling of them as stored pain, and repeatedly experiencing negative emotions will cause associations. This is why people feel terrible every single morning of the week for work, and even on Sunday nights. So I'm not saying work less. I believe longer hours you work, the happier you'll be, and it's better for you, and as long as the job is useful and ethical to society. What I'm saying is the brain molds every day, so if you're getting stressed, you're no longer experiencing stress, you are stressed. Yeah, so consider making some adjustments. Put some time into your brain, into your body. Okay, so environment. Need okay. Right, you want to be aware of biological things as well. There are some workplaces, they don't even have windows. There's no daylight. There's no fresh air. We need these things. Like, how heavy are the things? Does everybody dislike it? Does everybody have injuries? These are clues. Health and safety is not actually enforced everywhere. So long-term effects. It's important to be tough, but you won't be tough if you've got injury and you can't share that good attitude with anyone. As I said, it's important to distinguish if it is you that is the job, or the commute, or the job itself. Everyone who's on this planet is human. We should all be warming up our bodies, stretching. I'm going to assume you're fit. If you're fit, you're strong, you're getting up every day, doing the best you can be, doing your stretches, then you shouldn't be getting home from work completely annihilated. It's concrete, things like that. It's not good for you. Now, in a later chapter, I'm going to teach you how to exercise and enjoy it. You want to be able to enjoy your exercise, look forward to it. But you have to be fit to know if it's a job that's a problem or if you feel the problem and they're working out. So if you are stuck in a bad place, some people are seen stuck in places that, and these are great, great people, but they're there for some reason. So you think about the benefits of the place you're in if you don't like it. What are the benefits? You need to know that. You write them down. Then what are the drawbacks? And you write them down. Then you want to find out what the long-term consequences are for putting up with these drawbacks. Can you do this 5 years? Can you do this 10 years? Think about it. And if the answer is no, like any of these drawbacks has had any consequences on your life so far. And then you want to find 3 other ways to get these 3 other things you could possibly do that have these same benefits without these drawbacks. For example, is it because you like working outside? There could be somewhere else where you can work outside as well. So that is an example. And then again, you want to know what could you be wrong about. No one will hire you because of X, Y, Z, because you haven't got the experience or something else. When again, there's people that hire people for, they're all just looking for the right person. What could you be wrong about? What could you be scared of? What could be good that you can't see yet? If you're highly capable, ethical and hard working, there are people who will want to hire you. There are some jobs where no amount of running, Pilates and yoga will help. Not even that thing they do where they hang upside down from the curtain will save you. Getting used to it is just the deletion in the brain. Your mind is deleting the symptoms of pain, which get louder and louder and louder until eventually something breaks and you feel terrible every single day with no idea how you got to feeling like this. And guess what? Depression is very much in the body too. A lot of time you can't notice it because of the caffeine, because of the smoking, blah blah blah, junk food. And this is why the older generation spoke like chimneys. It was to get through the day. And that's where it comes from. It came from where there was no other choice. That was the work ethic. It was like we didn't have any choice other than factories and the war. And but it's not like that anymore. And all that stuff is painkillers. You've also got, regardless of your 12 years of sitting at a desk, you grew up sitting at a desk in school, bored out your mind. You know, every time you got excited to go out and run out and play, you still had to stay there, you denied that. And now, all that slouching, plus whatever job you've been doing as well. Nearly there. What am I going to do first? Okay, positive environments. Okay, best thing you can do. In the morning, so what I had to do was, I was getting this morning routine going. And I was getting up and I was running every day. And I was running and I was writing and working for my own stuff and thinking of ideas to work with people. And developing all these client sheets I've got and, being ready to just do the best that I could. Name for a website and all these different things. And so I had to be physically handle the workloads, amplify this further. But when I had my injury, I could only, it was just to reduce CI. Unfortunately, I did not have the full solution which I'm sharing to you now. So it was about manage, prevent and recover. It was not enough. So things continued to decline. Even when I left this environment, I had permanently changed as a person at this low point. What followed was a couple of years of trying to find out what works to get myself back. I tried every day, I had my morning routine to recondition my mind, my body. I was lucky enough to arrive in 2 positive work environments. Now I had good people everywhere I've worked, but what was different about these was the people who were in charge. Like, it was the rules of the organisation. It was you were given that energy flow rather than constant dush, dush, dush. It was, you worked hard when the time was hard. But then there was that natural, because the restaurant, like one was a restaurant, well, they were both restaurants. It allowed that flow in the day, and and it was and the idea of the organisation, the people thinking and creating. There wasn't that view that the employees. It was like we're working together. It wasn't you lot are working for us. It wasn't like that, and it's different. Anyway, so it's positive. My default had become so low, it took further effort and personal growth to be able to stay there, and I thought I was positive already anyway, so I had to keep up the speed and the emotions of people. So it was news to me, because I always thought I was pretty positive and confident. I knew I had agony, and I knew I was, in the times of being depressed, but I hadn't realised how bad it had gotten. So if I came to talking to these people, I could only do it if I put in effort to raise myself that day. And the way it started out would just be, I'll be able to say a couple of words, and then eventually I could have a sentence, and eventually I could hold conversations, because that's how anxious and worried I'd gotten over that time. So just by talking and being around them, the work wasn't carnage, because it allowed the unconscious healing to take place, so that depth of connection. So if mental health is your priority, no, don't just look at the money you might make in a certain place, look at the people you're around, and it will make you strong again. And it allowed that depth of connection. The dominant thoughts were different, and so that for that relationship, those relationships, but also the atmosphere of it reinforces. If everyone's suffering, then the dominant thoughts everyone is like, I can't believe I'm going through this again today. It's a different atmosphere. You do have your nice moments in these atmospheres, but it's like it's a few nice moments within a struggle. And that's completely different to, we're all going to work today, it's all right, and there's a buzz. So by the time I'd left these environments, the attitude, skills, habits and feelings stayed with me. So then I was able to influence the environments in the next jobs, and it was like, okay, I learned from some great men there, and so the way they could speak to people was amazing. And you then have this ability then to influence. So a lot of jobs aren't they're not too positive, they're not too negative, they're quite in the middle. And as individuals, we can, especially if the jobs, you're doing the same thing every day, we have this capability and responsibility to be able to lift each other up. And you can do that, if you're working on yourself, you're keeping your notes on Netflix and stuff like that or whatever, and you share things with people, It's you create the atmosphere. It just takes a bit of effort, a bit of energy, and it's like that. You get one person, and it all goes. So yeah, it's getting out of your head. It's good attitude as well. There's a difference. People weren't happy. Like they were happy, but they all had their own problems. But they had a good attitude, and an attitude is a set of faults. And that's the difference. When people have bad attitudes, then it's like it's not good. However, what I believe influences the environment more than anything, and this is the controversial thing, is the radio. And you cannot compete with the radio. And none of you, or some of you will believe me, some of you won't. And again, this is the best environments I've been in didn't have radios. Well, they did. The best environments they've been in had amazing house music. But in terms of work environments, the worst ones had these radios. Now think about it. If we put someone in a room and they would take a great song one after another, there's a good chance they'll be in a good mood. The idea might sound ridiculous, but if you put on good music as a party, you can't deny the effect of music. As you've been to parties, you've been to restaurants, so you know this is true. Why is it such a crazy suggestion that the influence is not affecting the workplace? See, the way I'm imagining this in my head is everyone saying, right, he had me up till this point, now I'm not sure, when really everyone might actually be saying, wow, I never noticed. Or maybe it's because it's me, this is what I'm saying. I don't know if it's just me, because I've DJ'd, I'm more affected by it, but I've seen it like song by song. And the reason I notice it is because my mind is different. So I've learned to do this. And the problem with a lot of the music, it depends obviously which station, but a lot of the commercial stuff is a tonality. It's like it's like whining. Now if we take George Michael, right, okay, he can do a sad song and he'll be an angel. You can listen to George all day long, and that's completely fine. But the way it's being done, a lot of the stuff is, and there's so much good music, and it's just not getting played. It's just the same stuff. And I feel energy, I believe in energy. You can believe in whatever you want. You don't have to agree with this, but what I'm saying is, pay attention to it. Especially some of the music that's like really high frequency, either dance music or hip hop, and it's like feels like it's breaking your brain. They had a study where they got water and they shone these sounds onto it, and harmonic sounds made pretty patterns, where inharmonic sounds like screeching, it was just all like no pattern or anything, and we're mostly made out of water, and that's what some of this music sounds like, and we're listening to that. And there was studies done about what it does to cognition, to thinking, and listening to that music does affect cognitive ability. Now, if we think about neuroplasticity, what happens if you listen to that every single day, all day, every single day? Surely it's affecting the brain. For me, like I decided I would rather have worked in manual labour with back injury than with no radio than sit in an office with radio. It's a model of the world as well. It's the news. It's like it's controlling your thoughts, not controlling your thoughts, but it's influencing your thoughts. Like it's a narrative. Your narrative needs to be, I'm going to change things. I'm going to get to a good place. Or I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. Not, it's a lot of the negative stuff. And they never put on hardly any good news. All the things we could think about. So much great stuff happening every day. And we end up thinking what we feel about. Okay, next controversial bit. Well, I know it's controversial, but I don't know, some people might not receive it well. But anyway, it's all for a good intention. We have discussed what you're doing with your physical body, but what about what you hear all day? Now, the next part might be obvious to you, but if everyone did know, then people wouldn't still be doing it. And if people that knew that others complaining were the source of their bad mood, and they weren't afraid to talk to them, they would in no way allow it. Complaining is the expression of a negative thought, except when it is outside of one person's brain, it is then both observed in another's and felt in another's. Not only this, but the science shows that just by being around others, the mirror neurons in our body match and sync with those of the people we're closest to. So if you're going to the pub or a restaurant, it's going to be great. Everyone's in a nice, good mood. But again, if people have bad attitude and they're always complaining about everything, it's not good. People bring each other down. So you can wake up happy as you like, and you go into a place, and then you're going to feel as a result of the collective group. And again, this is good. Like most places I've been, people have had good attitudes, but again, a lot of the time, I believe people are brought down by the radio, by the music. Okay, so emotional contagion theory states that emotions are as contagious as germs. The depth to which someone is empathetic. So again, we all vary to this degree as well, how much we are influenced by others emotionally. The nature of the job, the physical distance between people, which individuals are mainly speaking in the environment, and the intensity of different people's emotions on different days vary this. So again, you can have someone always complaining, and you're with them, but then we have someone else who they're just having a really good day, then they're able to influence the atmosphere more so because there's more energy, and that person might not even go into that complaining world. So if someone has an issue and it is solution focused, and that is fair enough to discuss it, and then there will be a resolution. Though a lot of the time, if there is no intended resolution, then the complaining has no purpose and it is not needed, and the only thing that is achieved is bringing down the mood of the listener. So if that is you complaining, then hopefully, if this may be news to you. I wouldn't be surprised if no one told you, as there are a lot of people that wouldn't want to hurt your feelings. If you have someone in your company that's complaining, you've got to find your courage to tell them. There is a way of doing it. It's not being indirect, making jokes or hinting at things, as this does fly over people's head. And the person may have been this way for so long that they don't know any different. So you've got to have compassion and help these people, as clearly they don't know any better. If you're avoiding them, you're choosing not to help someone when you could, which really is not a good thing and does reflect on you. They will be happier as a result, and so will you. Everyone else will too. So have compassion. No one starts out in life as a complainer. Either they, weren't raised well. Their parents were complainers, or they've got some genuine things to complain about. We all do, but they might have a particularly hard time at that particular time. Whatever the fact is, they were suffering at one point and they got stuck there. So your chances to break them out of their nightmare and to make them aware of what they're doing. You can point them back to the things they're thinking about, saying, hey, look, if you keep thinking about this stuff, you're going to feel terrible. And it's hard to do that, because you're going against. But it gets easy. The more you do things like this, the easier it gets to be able to confront is the wrong word, but to be, to do that. And you just stay in your thing, like you stay relaxed. You say, hey, and they start going off, and like, hey, listen. We're friends. It's okay. You don't need to get defensive, but look, this is the truth. And you do need to be. You don't let people not get away with it. You don't let them get deny it, or you don't get embarrassed as well. So hey, listen. You touch them on the hand or something. Say, hey, listen. It's okay. This is just how it is. And then it's not as bad because people avoid confrontation all the time, and confrontation needs to happen. And for so many reasons. And conversation is not all fighting. So, again, compassion, again, suffering, it's all carried through history, through today, in people's memories. So we must try to minimise it as a society by not spreading it, by not creating it, and not allowing it to be spread. And this is by controlling your focus, your thoughts, your voice, and looking after your body. We also have the option to eliminate stored pain internally or the causes of pain externally, the subject of things all of us could complain about. We have to deal with all of our problems, not accept them, and definitely not get stuck in problems for an unnecessarily long time, especially if we have been given advice already. So, as general housekeeping, according to the science, just allowing yourself to be in a bad mood, even if you don't say anything negative, is going to be affecting others. So it's the same as brushing your teeth. You don't do it just for your benefit. Sharing bad feelings can be done by always expressing your worries, gossiping, talking about negative subjects, judging others, only assuming the worst or commenting on faults, really just allowing your focus to go onto anything that doesn't feel good or bringing someone else's focus onto that subject. It all begins with monitoring your thoughts. You know, it's an attitude, it's a set of thoughts. You can be sad and have a good attitude, but then we talk about miserable. Someone's miserable, they have a bad set of thoughts. You can change all our dominant thoughts over time. The thoughts we permit to be in the centre of our mind. We collect our attitude, our thoughts, what we learn through our experience. Okay, that's that one. Oh, right, nearly there. One more chapter and we are done.